Payday finally comes, you pay your bills, and for a moment you feel relieved. But just a few days later, you check your account and wonder how the money disappeared so fast. This moment feels confusing and frustrating, especially when you thought you were being careful. It's a situation many people quietly experience. When money disappears like this, it doesn't just affect your wallet, it affects your emotions. Stress creeps in, guilt shows up, and your mind keeps asking, where did it all go? These feelings can linger and quietly drain your energy. Spending is never just about numbers. If this sounds familiar, you're not alone. People from different incomes and backgrounds experience the same struggle. It's not about how much you make, but how spending shows up in everyday life. This is a shared human experience. Overspending doesn't mean you're careless or bad with money. Many smart and responsible people struggle with this too. The problem isn't a lack of discipline or intelligence. Something deeper is influencing these choices. The real story begins inside your brain. Every day, without you noticing, your brain gently nudges your spending decisions. These small influences add up over time and shape your habits. Understanding this is the first step to change. Have you ever walked into a store planning to buy just one thing and somehow walked out with 5? You didn't feel reckless and you didn't feel careless. It just happened so fast that you barely noticed. If that sounds familiar, this video is for you. This video is called Why You Can't Stop Spending. It's Neuroscience. And no, you're not broken or bad with money. Stay until the end, because the final insight might completely change how you see your spending habits. This could be the shift you didn't know you needed. Spending feels good in the moment because your brain loves instant rewards. It's like getting a quick emotional boost that makes you feel excited and satisfied right away. That feeling can be powerful, especially when you've had a long or stressful day. Your brain naturally wants more of whatever feels good fast. Think about spending like eating a sugary snack. It tastes amazing in the moment and gives you a quick burst of happiness. But later, you might feel regret and wish you had chosen differently. Spending works the same way when pleasure comes before thinking. This often shows up during everyday moments, like online shopping after a long workday. You're tired, your guard is down, and buying something feels like a small reward. It's easy to click without thinking too much. In that moment, comfort feels more important than logic. Each time you spend and feel that quick happiness, your brain remembers it. Over time, this creates a loop where spending becomes the go-to response for feeling better. You're not choosing it consciously anymore. Your brain is simply following what worked before. Emotional spending often happens when feelings take the driver's seat. Stress, boredom, or sadness can quietly push you toward buying something. In those moments, spending feels like relief, not a decision. It's less about the item and more about changing how you feel. Your logical side usually wants to plan, save, and think ahead, but emotions live in the present and want comfort right now. When these two sides clash, emotions often win because they're louder and faster. That's why spending can happen even when you know better. A common example is buying something after a tough conversation or a stressful day. The purchase feels like a small win, a way to regain control. For a moment, your mood lifts and everything feels lighter, but that feeling doesn't last very long. The key thing to remember is that emotional spending isn't a failure. It's a signal that something inside you wants comfort or safety. When you notice this pattern, you create space to respond differently. Awareness gives logic a chance to step back in. A lot of spending doesn't start with a decision, it starts with a habit. Habits form quietly through repetition, not intention. Over time, you stop thinking about them altogether. Spending becomes something you do automatically. Think about routines like grabbing something every time you pass the same place or open the same app. You don't stop to ask yourself if you really want it. Your body just follows the familiar path. Habits save energy, but they can also cost money. The brain loves habits because they make life easier. Once a habit is formed, it runs quietly in the background. That's why spending can happen even when you don't feel tempted. You're not reacting, you're repeating. The good news is that habits can be changed once you notice them. You don't need to fight yourself, just slow the pattern down. A small pause can interrupt the loop. That pause is where new choices begin. Your environment plays a bigger role in spending than you might realize. The things you see every day quietly shape your choices. Convenience often feels like a harmless shortcut, but over time, those shortcuts guide your spending without you noticing. When something is placed right in front of you, it feels easier to say yes. You don't feel pushed, you feel helped. Small moments of convenience add up quickly. What's nearby often gets chosen first. Think about snacks left on the counter versus snacks hidden away. You don't crave the hidden ones as much. The same idea applies to spending. What's visible and easy slowly becomes a habit. Changing spending doesn't always start with changing yourself. Sometimes it starts with changing what's around you. When your environment supports you, better choices feel easier. Small adjustments can create big shifts over time. Many people think the solution to overspending is stronger willpower, but willpower isn't unlimited. It gets tired just like your body does. By the end of the day, your mental energy is lower. That's when spending choices become harder to control. Think of willpower like a phone battery. In the morning, it's full and decisions feel easy. As the day goes on, every choice drains it a little more. By night, it's much easier to give in to impulse spending. This is why spending mistakes often happen late at night. You're not weaker, you're just tired. After a long day of work, conversations, and decisions, your brain wants the easiest comfort. Spending feels like the quickest reward. The key isn't to push yourself harder, it's to make spending decisions easier before willpower runs low. When systems support you, you don't have to fight yourself. Smart structure beats raw discipline every time. Real change starts when you slow spending down, even just a little. You don't need to stop urges, you just need to pause them. That small pause creates space between feeling and action. And in that space, you get your power back. One simple question can change everything. Asking, do I want this now? Or do I want what this money gives me later? Shifts your focus. It moves your mind from the present moment to the future. That question interrupts automatic spending. This isn't about deprivation or saying no forever. It's about choosing what matters more to you. When spending lines up with your values, guilt fades away. Money starts to feel like a tool, not a trap. When you change how you think about spending, behavior naturally follows. You stop reacting and start choosing. Small mindset shifts repeated over time build lasting habits. This is how control is rebuilt from the inside out. Awareness is the moment you realize spending isn't random. You start noticing the patterns, the timing, and the emotions behind your choices. This awareness alone already changes how you behave. You can't unsee what you finally understand. Once you see the pattern, you gain a choice. You can pause, reflect, and decide differently. That moment of choice is where control lives. Spending no longer controls you, you guide it. Over time, these small choices add up. One pause turns into a habit, and one habit changes your relationship with money. Progress doesn't come from perfection, it comes from consistency. Small wins quietly build real freedom. This is how you stop fighting spending and start working with your brain. You don't force change, you guide it. When you understand how your mind works, money becomes less stressful, and control starts to feel natural, not exhausting. Let's take a moment to recap what we've covered. Spending is deeply emotional, not just logical. Your brain naturally looks for comfort and convenience, especially when you're tired or stressed. And once you become aware of these patterns, you create real choice. The most important thing to remember is this: understanding your brain is the first step toward real change. When you know what's driving your behavior, you can guide it instead of fighting it. This is how lasting change begins. Your financial life doesn't change by accident, it changes by awareness. If this video helped you see spending differently, show your support, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who might need it. Small actions like this help this message reach more people, and it keeps this community growing. Now, I'd love to hear from you. What's one spending habit you've noticed in yourself recently? Drop it in the comments and be honest with yourself. You're not alone in this, and your story might help someone else too. You're watching the Wealth Mindset channel. This is where we believe in the power of a wealthy mindset. Remember, when you change how you think about money, you change what's possible for your future. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you in the next video.